Good afternoon. Hello.
Hey, people. YouTube land.
The land of tubes.
Yeah. So our topic for today, we're gonna make it short, or than we have.
We're going to try.
We'll see. Is pastoral responsibility. What is the pastor's responsibility? In my first book, I talked about several different pastors that I had spoken to, and I actually went back today to talk to one of them. I set an interview up with him where I could, or I guess not an interview, just an appointment, where I could discuss with him some things that I felt he misled us about within his church when we went to go visit versus what was on their webpage.
Very misleading.
And mostly having to do with the holidays.
Yes.
But we got a little more in depth in that conversation. Unfortunately, Brad wasn't able to go. He was working. So we're going to set up another appointment, hopefully, to be able to speak to him together here in a couple of weeks. So one of the things that kind of concerned me while I was talking to him was that while he doesn't celebrate the holidays...
Time out.
What?
Start from the beginning.
Okay.
Jennifer called this guy
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
When we had first moved to where we live now. And I was calling around to several different churches, actually, to see if there were any churches maybe in our area that believed the way that we do.
Or at least a piece of it.
Most of it,
the Bible.
Something, That'd
be great.
Do you teach out of the Bible? And so instead of going to visit all these different churches and finding out after months and months what they actually believe, let's nip it in the bud and call these people, their leadership.
And this guy happened to actually talk to her on the phone, so she felt drawn to at least...
Yeah, he didn't have a secretary answer his phone, and there's nothing wrong with having secretaries, but he answered his own church's phone, which I just found completely I was in awe, because I, again, was raised in the church, so I know that they normally have secretaries that answer their phones and schedule their appointments and things like that. And so it just kind of flabbergasted me when he answered the phone. And was like, I said, can I speak to the pastor? And he's like, well, this is the pastor. And I was like, oh, you answer your own phone, do you?
Hello, governor.
He's like, well, I'm just a person. And I was like, I like this guy, and I still like him. I still have great respect for him. My personal opinion of him hasn't really changed. Anyway, so I discussed with him, I said, these are going to be some weird questions, but do you participate in Christmas? And he said, well, no, we do have a Christmas play around that time of year just because that's what's on everybody else's minds, but we don't have a Christmas tree or anything like that. And I was like, okay, I can understand the Christmas play around that time of the year, just if you're having visitors come in, they'd probably find it strange that you don't. I get that. Okay, sure.
Fair.
Yeah, fair. What about the Easter Bunny? Do you do that? And he said, no, we don't do that. And I said, well, what about Halloween? Do you do that? And he said, no, we sometimes do a heavenly harvest where we have candies and games and stuff for the kids, as more of an alternative. But I don't even like to term it as an alternative, is what he had said. And I was like, okay, okay, I'll give you that. Something
What
that
she
people
said.
can do, not to participate in Halloween, but they still want to do something fun with their kids, kind of like going to the pumpkin patch. We do that down here. We're in the South, so I don't know if people in the North do that, but we go to pumpkin patches here in the South.
We patch the pumpkin.
Will you stop?
Ah!
So, anyway, then we went to that church for a couple months. And
about 3 or 4 times.
We went a little more than
3
that.
or 4 Sundays.
A little more than
Maybe
that.
5.
Anyway, but he happened to be gone most of that time on
He
a
was.
mission trip to another country. And so we really didn't get to hear him preach very much. So
Once.
I got curious. Well, we heard his son.
We did. His son was pretty good.
His son was good. It was more of an alternative preacher, probably for the younger people, but still very good. I enjoyed his message, and we learned something from it. So I can't say it was a bad message,
No.
by any means.
The delivery was good too.
Yes, it was. It was serious at times and comedic at times, and it really kept people's interest. So that he had a good delivery. And then we heard a couple of other pastors that were, I guess, guests.
Guessed, yeah.
And,
A couple of them were like 95, so it's kind of hard to understand them.
But we learned anyway. We went anyway. So while he was on this mission trip, I got curious. I was like, okay, well, we don't really know this pastor guy very much. So I'm going to go on their webpage. So I went on their webpage, and there were pictures of Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all that sort of stuff.
Christmas
And I was like,
trees and-
yeah, and Christmas trees. And so, and people dressed up as Ghostbusters in their fellowship hall. And I was like, okay,
Yeah, because that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I thought you said you didn't participate in these things. Yet here's the Easter Bunny, here's Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and here's Ghostbusters. So I'm confused.
So time out, though. We're not trying to sound like the people that don't do wrong,
Oh, no.
by
Never
the
do that.
way.
Because we used to participate in these things, as we've said in other videos. We participated
We
for a long time.
definitely have.
Mm-hmm. And I think if it was up to the kids that we would still do that. If it was up
The
to the
kids...
Now they know better,
that's-
but, like,
that's
you
the problem. They teach
They-
things and do things to draw children in.
in hopes of getting their parents to come.
Yeah, we'll get the kids in first, and they're going to be like, Mommy, Daddy, take me to church.
Yeah, and they'll be excited to go because they know what's coming up, because everything follows along with what they do in school. You know, they have Valentine's parties and Christmas parties and stuff at school, which if you do public school, you know what I'm talking about. We homeschool now most of our children. The other one,
Most.
goes to public school, but the oldest. But anyway, neither here nor there. So we left and we didn't go back because I felt completely lied to. I felt betrayed because here he was. He had told me, we had like an hour-long conversation on the phone, and he told me they don't participate in these things, and yet on their webpage they have all these things on their webpage.
Not to mention the kung fu they have during the week for all the kids to come join, or what was that guy's name that was doing all that? They had some guy teaching martial arts and the
Oh yeah.
yeah
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I forgot
him.
to ask about that.
teaching that
But
stuff
yeah,
on the
so
side.
like during on
Let's say a
Wednesday
prayer.
nights.
And let's punch each other.
Yeah, on Wednesday, and there's nothing wrong with karate or whatever, jiu-jitsu I think is what he was doing.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
This guy volunteered his time on like Wednesday nights while the adults are having their Bible fellowship or whatever, that he was teaching the kids jiu-jitsu.
How to break fingers.
Because there are a lot of, well, no, he said he was teaching them the disciplinary practices of jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
And I was like, okay.
Because that's not paganistic.
I'm not sure if I want my kids to learn the
Peace.
things. I mean, I don't know how that exactly goes because I've never. Please stop. Gosh. So anyway, I had completely forgotten about that. I didn't even talk to the pastor about that. So I for 2 years I've been wanting to talk to this guy. You know, I wrote my book and everything, included him in it.
He's in there.
Not by name. But you'll know who I'm talking about.
His name's Little Billy in the book.
No, it's not. I didn't even put his name in there. Any name in there,
Bobby.
aside from yours.
Yeah, that sucks.
But anyway, so I set up a meeting with him, and I went to go talk to him today. My mom watched our kids, and because she was off work, and so I set up a meeting with him today, and I tried to discuss with him several different things that I felt he had misled us on, and he said, well, you know, we really don't practice those things. We have a photographer at the church, and she brings these people in for a voluntary photo op. Like
As
if
props.
you want to, yeah, if you want to have your picture taken on Easter with the Easter Bunny, we have the Easter Bunny over here, so you can have your picture taken with it. But we really don't focus on that. We focus on all this other stuff. Or he said he didn't even know that Mr. and Mrs. Claus were coming until they showed up at the church, and he was just like, okay, I guess Mr. and Mrs. Claus are here to take pictures.
I
And
guess
so,
we're going to ask Satan for presents.
and he said that while they do the Heavenly Harvest, they did think about doing a Forever House, which is kind of like if you've seen Heaven's Gates, Hell's... What's that called? Heaven's Gates, Hell's... Anyway,
Don't
it
know.
talks about like the consequences of your choice, and you either go to heaven or hell. And so he had thought about doing that around the Halloween time, and I was like, well, I think that would be appropriate if you're going to do something around Halloween. Sure. I don't know really what to say to that, so I was like, church. I think that would be appropriate around the beginning of the Halloween season, you know, when people are first thinking about these Halloween traditions. Oh, let's do a forever house with, if you choose paganistic ways, you're probably going to go this way, and if you choose not paganistic ways, you're probably going to go this way. Of course, there's more to that, but it was appropriate, maybe. Yeah, there's more to that, and we've discussed that before, and we'll discuss it again, but not right now, because I'm in the middle of my story. So I talked to him about several different points, and it really confounded me. I said, by allowing the Easter Bunny to come into your church, even though you don't have it at your church, and you don't practice it at home, and you don't teach it at your church, but simply by even allowing the thought of the Easter Bunny come into your church, it kind of makes you complacent. Where
she said that.
I did. I wasn't trying to be mean about it, and I feel like I said it in a really nice way, but I did use the word complacent, and I told him, I was like, that seems like complacency to me. And he said, well, I don't feel it's complacency. I think it's understanding that people are all different walks in their faith when they come to the church, and some people in my church believe the way that you do and follow the Sabbath and believe that we shouldn't be participating in these pagan rituals, and some people think that they don't know that it's pagan because they haven't done the research. And he said, I've told them the pagan origins of these traditions, but they still choose to do it in their own homes. We just don't do it at the church.
That's kind of the message, by the way, everyone. There's a recurring quality of all these pastors that we have spoke to. They all know. They just choose not to teach.
Right.
And I think that's something that everyone should take away from the situation. Ask your preacher. Ask your pastor. Say, hey, is this stuff pagan? Should we be doing this? They'll probably tell you, it keeps the kids coming in and we don't lose people.
Yeah,
That's
or it's up to the individual.
Yeah, the individual will make the choice.
Because it's where they are in their walk.
Whatever happened to just telling the truth?
Right. And so I was like, okay, well, I understand that. I said, for me, it was just like one night I had a dream and I woke up from this dream that God gave me, and I know God gave it to me, and we just kind of set off on our truth journey following that dream. We had already kind of started it, but after that it was really just like it took off after that. And
sure.
And several other things, like I told on the last video, my children bowing down in front of the Christmas tree. That was just crazy. And anyway, and it did take us a little while to get there, and I wasn't telling, and he used the word militaristic. He said, if you're looking for a church where you want to be militaristic about the holidays, then this is not going to be a church that you're happy in.
In other words, you're not invited. If you feel this way, you're not going to be able to go to this church.
Right, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not saying to be militaristic about it. I'm not saying to condemn people and damn them to hell over it. I'm saying that you should at the very least tell them it's wrong. I said, have you ever stood up in front of your congregation and told them about these holidays and how they're pagan? And he said, yes. I said, you've done a sermon on it? And he said, yes. I said, have you told them they're not supposed to do these holidays? And he said, oh, well, no. And I was like, so you've told them they're pagan, but you haven't told them that they're not supposed to do them because they're pagan. And he was like, well, you're going to have to show me. He's like, there's nothing in the Bible that says specifically about these things. And I was like, yes, there is. How are you a pastor and you don't know that there's Bible verses in here that specifically point out? They don't call them a Christmas tree because back then there was no such thing as Christmas. But there's an exact description of a Christmas tree in Jeremiah 10. You can look it up right now. Open your Bible. You know what? I'll do you one better. 1 second.
She getting the Bible.
I'm getting the Bible. Okay, so let's go to Jeremiah 10 real quick. And I literally pulled this out in front of him and flipped over to Jeremiah, and he did not touch his Bible the entire time that we were in our meeting, okay? He was very nice, and I'm not going to say he was not condescending at any point in time, unlike a lot of pastors I've spoken to. But okay, Jeremiah 10. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen.
The heathen.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, and work the hands of the workmen with an axe, and deck it with silver and gold, and fasten it with nails and hammers, that it not move. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Okay, so obviously not very many people go with an actual axe to hammer it down.
We did
anymore.
when we were kids.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying normally it's like the cutter
Saw.
machine thing now. Or if you were going to go with yourself, the chainsaw, but I'm talking like machines
Yeah, we even did
normally do it now.
the old saw when we were kids. Let's just cut the tree down.
Sure, but
Dad.
I'm saying for the majority, like if you see a Christmas tree farm, they're not going to go out there individually and chainsaw down each tree. They're going to have a machine that, whatever, it's still cut down, right? Okay, and it says they hammer it with nails and hammers that it not move. Well, now we've got those handy little bowls with the water in the bottom, and you can screw
Convenience.
it. Yeah, and you can like screw it in, you know, on either side so it doesn't totter. So it's literally fastened into place. So it's not necessarily the exact way, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, that doesn't apply now because we don't do that and we don't use nails and hammers and da 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 da.
My Christmas tree's fake. It's made out of plastic.
It's literally describing a Christmas tree, and this ties in with Deuteronomy and Leviticus and Numbers, where it says to tear down the Asherah poles, which are trees, and the Asherah groves, which I looked up a while ago what Asherah groves were, and the Asherah grove is actually a small forest or a Christmas tree farm, essentially, is what an Asherah grove is. So that these people can have a tree in their house when they fasten it and decorate it with silver and gold. And they put presents under it to Tammuz. And this pastor brought up Nimrod and Tammuz to me before I even had a chance to get there. Like, he knew the whole story of Nimrod and Tammuz. And he's like, but it's not in our Bible. And I was like, well, it's in Genesis. Nimrod's mentioned in there. And so is Asherah, which would be Semiramis' wife. And I said, you know, it's like Jesus is Jesus for English, or Yeshua for Hebrew, or Jesus for Spanish. You know, there's different names for him in different languages. So there's different names for her in different languages as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, but literally it's talking about her here. And I even went as far as to point out in Ezekiel, when he's talking about the people turning away from the synagogue and bowing down to worship the sun, and pouring out drinks to the goddess of heaven, because you know the song, Here We Go, a-wassailing along the leaves of green, right? Okay, so wassailing is actually, to wassel is to drink.
I like to wassel.
No, you don't.
Oh, yeah.
You used to, so did I. But we don't anymore. At least not very often. Not like that. We'll have a drink. Anyway, off
Once
subject.
a year.
Yeah, like once a year. Like, yeah. I don't remember the last New Year's. Passover is really the only time we ever have a drink, and that's the wine at the table that we already discussed in last video.
That's right.
We're getting off subject.
Passover's great.
Anyway, and so I told him that, or I was explaining to him about how we shouldn't be doing these things because it absolutely points them out. In the Old Testament, it absolutely talks about the Christmas tree, and it even talks about some of the Easter traditions. Not all of them, obviously, not sacrificing infants by their blood. It talks about them passing through fire, but still an infantile sacrifice, which is what Easter was about.
The point is that everything that humans do today have already been done.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened.
Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun that has not already been.
It's already been done. People have been doing it for thousands of years. And just because we call it Christmas doesn't mean that it hasn't already existed.
Exactly. And that was another thing that he had said, was that through the years, and this is kind of what my dad told me, so it didn't, excuse me, it didn't like confound me that he was saying it, but it still was off-putting because my dad said when I was younger and I had asked him about the pagan holidays, you know, are these pagan? He said, yeah, but they were, but now they're not. And the pastor, right, they used to be, but now they're not because we use them to celebrate Jesus. But we just read, it says, learn not the ways of the heathen. And in Deuteronomy, I think it's 12:4. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's Deuteronomy 12:4. And it says, do not worship the Lord thy God in that way. Speaking of like the Asherah poles and passing your infants through fire and all these other things that he lists out throughout the Old Testament. And
or the way that they worship Baal, or the way that they worship anything that's not God. Mm-hmm. You notice all of them are real strange, real weird little weird things.
He said we're to come out. We're to come out of the world. We're to be a peculiar people.
Yeah.
And anyway, so this pastor asked me, he's like, okay, well, here, let me ask you this question. I said, okay. And he said, what do you feel about Sunday worship? Do you feel that it's a Sabbath worship or a Sunday worship? And of course, I had to tell him the honest answer. I was like, well,
let's go with what the Bible
yeah,
says.
I was like, it's the Sabbath, which, again, I was raised, and I told him, I was like, I was raised in the church. My father was a Southern Baptist minister. I was raised Sunday morning, Sunday night. Afternoons in the Sunday was to prep for the night service, and maybe eat something, maybe, if we had time. And Wednesday nights, and Friday night youth night, and Saturday potlucks, and, like, this... I was raised in the church. I know the church. And
ever so often locked down.
yeah. What?
Yeah, they locked down the church. Let's lock it down. We're going to praise God all night long.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the lock.
Everybody
We
bring your
called it.
sleeping bags.
Okay, where I'm from, we called it lock-ins, not
Oh,
lock
yeah.
down.
Lock down, lock in. Same
it's like-
thing.
Anyway, and so I said, we worship on the Sabbath, and that's our primary day of worship, and I feel that our primary day of worship should be the Sabbath, because that's what God said. It's part of the commandments. And he said, well, Jesus came to fulfill the law, and in my eyes, he completely fulfilled it. He completed the law. And I was like, whoa.
That's not what he said.
In English, the translation is fulfill, and fulfill is translated as complete. I said, but you have to take it back to the Greek that it was actually written in, and it was written, that the word fulfill for Greek is actually to enforce. And then if you read further in that same passage, I believe it says, and is it the same passage, or is it
It's right there near
chapter? Yeah, it's really close to it. Anyway,
in
it
Matthew.
says, I did not come to abolish the law, but
I did not come to take away the law.
I didn't come to abolish it. Not one jot or tittle shall in no wise,
Nothing
way
should change.
pass from the law until all be fulfilled. All meaning the new heaven, new earth. So he knew when he said that there was still going to be what we term as humanly the church age, or the age of grace.
But Jen,
And
on the
then-
cross he said it is done.
I know.
What did he mean?
His sacrifice was done. He was finished. He was done with taking the sins upon himself and dying a sinner's death, so that way God could raise him from the dead. That doesn't mean that all of everything was finished. It just meant that his part in human form was done. His part as coming into a human body to understand what it was like to be tempted, as the devil tempted him, was finished.
Yeah, but then why would he have taught all the people while he was alive the clarification of the law?
Right.
Why would he have taught that if the law was still standing at that
apply.
point? The law is only standing until I die, guys, and
and
then it's over.
I don't have to clarify it anymore after that.
But by the way, you guys are doing this wrong right now. That's what he told all the Pharisees, and he told all the people that were following the law to a T. He's like, whoa, yeah, I can do good on the Sabbath. I can do things.
But they weren't following the law to a T, or he wouldn't have had to clarify for them.
Exactly.
They were overdoing it. They were making it
they're
harder
making
than what
it
it needed
man's
to be.
law.
They were, you can't tie your shoes on the Sabbath. You have to wear sandals because tying your shoes is working. Well, I mean, technically you're using your fingers, but that's not really working.
That's why I hit him in the face with the whole ox in the hole, or the sheep, or the goat, or whatever it was. I hit him in the face
sheep in
with
the
it.
hole.
He's like, yeah, well, you guys would do this, wouldn't you?
You'd
You're just gonna let
save
your
your sheep from dying,
sheep
right?
die? And they're like, oh yeah, I guess we would. We probably already have. But you're mad at this guy for picking up a mat?
That has never walked before.
Come on.
I hope you're getting the things that we're spewing out here, because those are things we talk about often. But anyway, another thing that he had said in regards to the Sabbath was that he believed that Jesus fulfilled everything, he believed that the Sabbath then was pretty much any time that we choose it to be, and that we just choose it to be on Sundays because that's when...
'Cause that's when Paul and his guys did it.
No, he said that Jesus met with his disciples every
Oh, yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like,
It's 100 times in the New Testament, by the way.
Yeah, he said it was over 100 times it was mentioned that Jesus met with his disciples on the first day of the week. And I was like, I just don't remember reading that. I mean, I'm going to go read it again now, because now I'm curious where he's getting that from, because I just don't remember reading that. And it could be,
doesn't say that.
well, it could be that he even admitted, he said, well, he taught in the synagogue on Saturdays, but he met with his disciples on Sundays. So, which still brought me around to the question of, okay, but you're not meeting, even if Jesus did meet with his disciples on Sundays, let's give him the benefit of that. Let's say it says that, and we just don't remember reading it.
Yeah, I've just never seen it. That's what.
Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. But he still taught on the Sabbath. So why is this pastor, if he's going to use that, why is he teaching on Sundays instead of meeting with his deacons? Which
Not
would be
only
kind of like
that,
disciples.
Jesus never stopped anybody at the synagogue and said, "Hey, this is over with. We're going to start doing this tomorrow."
Absolutely.
He never done that. He never said that. He taught on that day. As a matter of fact, he brought people into the synagogue and around the synagogue that weren't normally allowed.
In fact,
Bring them in here.
It's in the Book of Catechism that the Catholics claim the right, their claim to the Sunday, that they thought it was good to change the Lord's Day to Sunday.
Purposely.
And there are some books, apparently, that I had never heard of those either, but there are some books that document believers meeting on Sunday even back to John the Baptist days.
Sure.
And, I mean, that could be so if they were Greek believers, but if they were Jew believers, they were on the Sabbath. There's no way talking a Jewish person out of the Sabbath. There's just not, because it's inbred in them, because they're the chosen people. It's like it's literally born into them. They want to worship on the Sabbath. It's kind of cool. I've known quite a few Jewish people, and it's in them. They have to worship on the Sabbath on Saturday. It's really cool to see.
It's a good thing.
But anyway, so I was like, well, I haven't heard of those books, but I'll be sure to look those up and do some research in them. I said, but as far as the research that I've done, even if that were so, the person that kind of made it a regular thing was the father of the church, Ignatius, which came pre-Roman Catholic Church, but after Paul and John. He supposedly learned from John, not the Baptist, John the Revelator, but he supposedly studied under him or whatever before he was sent to Patmos. But he's the one that tried to convince people that they should be worshiping on Sundays. So I'm not sure where he got that from, but that's the research that I've done, along with Tertullian creating the Trinity, etc. I don't want to get too far into the Trinity tonight because that'll just take a long time. But so again, the purpose of this video is, what is a pastor's responsibility? So I talked to the pastor about what he was doing and not doing, and I said, why haven't you spoken to your people about that they should not be doing this? And he said, well, I just don't know that they shouldn't be doing it. And
he doesn't agree.
And he literally said that if I was looking for a militant leader to tell people what they should and should not do, as far as holidays and things were concerned, that this probably was not the church for us.
It's kind of exactly what all of the disciples or the apostles were doing. Mm-hmm. They were literally walking into a man-created situation, and they were clearing it up. They were telling them exactly what they should and should not be doing, right to their face.
And it may have taken a while. I mean, Paul spent like what 3 seasons or something with this one church. Place. And it may take a while, but eventually, if they're not even willing to listen, you have to wipe your feet. You dust your feet off like Paul did and move on to the next people. And I told the pastor that. I said, I'm not saying that I am Paul by any means, and I'm also, a woman, and I wish my husband was here with me. I said, but I feel like in my heart, kind of like Paul, like I know. It's not even that I want, it's I know God is telling me that I need to tell people what is right and what is wrong. And does that mean I always get it right? No, absolutely not. But that doesn't mean I don't have a message that God's given me to tell people either. Paul was not perfect. You know, he had a temper and he was sick,
And
but
apparently he
it
liked to
didn't
build
stop him.
tents.
But it didn't stop him from telling people what they were supposed to do. And he even stayed with that one, and he even went back a second time before he went to Jerusalem to die. He even went back around to all of them to be sure that they were sticking with what he had taught them.
Let the
Because
dead
it
bury
was-
the dead.
Okay, well, that was Jesus that said that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. So I had asked the pastor, I said, well, would you be open to doing a Sabbath service? He said, well, I would be open to doing a Sabbath service, you know, on Saturday mornings. That would be fine if it's for the people like you, because my church is 50-50. We got half of them believe in going on Sundays and half of them believe in Sabbath days.
It's kind of funny, too. Think about what she just said about what he said. Oh, by the way, there's people just like you and your husband and your family that already go to church with us. Mm-hmm. It's funny that he brought that up several times.
I think that we shouldn't be doing any of the pagan holidays.
Don't panic,
we should
because
be
there's
doing
people just like
Sabbath.
you. They don't like the bunny. They don't like the tree. They're already going to church on the Sunday, but they actually really like the Sabbath better. But they're still coming to church at my church. He's trying to point out a in for us to go in
To
there
get us to go there.
and then we start talking to these people, and they're just like, "Hey, man, what are you talking about? We don't."
Well, there were a couple people that I talked to that thought Sabbath was the day also, but they didn't really do it. They just kind of laid around and
I don't
used their
remember
Saturday
anybody.
as a normal Saturday. But there was one couple I talked to, but one couple versus half the church was kind of different. But I was like, I get that's great. I said, but no, if we were to, my husband and I, if we were to help you out with the Sabbath service, it wouldn't just be for the people that feel they should be worshiping on Sabbath. It would also be for the people that are going on Sundays, where they would maybe start to gravitate away from the Sunday and
we
go
tell 'em
toward
the
the
truth.
Sabbath. And he's like, well, I don't want to do that, because I'm not going to sit there and tell them if I don't believe it, if I don't think that we should go on the Sabbath, or that we have to go on the Sabbath rather, then I'm not going to tell my congregation that I feel like they should go on this worship on the Sabbath. So he asked me to convince him of the Sabbath. And so he has been a pastor for 25 something years, and he's in his, I would say, early 50s, and again, very genuinely nice person.
Seem cool.
Stop beating my chair, please.
Oh.
And so I don't have anything as far as personality ill to say of him. I just don't understand how you can be wishy-washy on, well, it's okay if half my congregation believes this and half of them believe this. I just don't
It's
understand.
like I told my wife when she told me this story and she called me. This guy is afraid. He's scared. He's scared of people. He's scared to
Most of
lose
them
his
are.
church. Oh, if I done this, then I might lose half of my people. Well,
I
by
don't
your
wanna
math,
offend
you would
anyone.
lose exactly half.
Right.
Because you said there was half here and half there.
And he
so
doesn't
I don't
want to
want to offend
anyone.
nobody. So
He's very
let's
political.
let's not make everybody unhappy. I'd rather them just be happy and continue to pay that money, so we can keep this church open.
I don't know if it's even about the money. I think it's
It
more
is.
about the connections and not wanting to ostracize people. But unfortunately, with us, that falls into the world. We're all brothers, sort of thing. And he claims to be very anti-Catholic, but yet he's doing kind of the same thing in a different
It's the
way.
exact same thing.
You know, it doesn't matter what you worship as long as
It's
we're
a
all worshiping
universal
God.
church.
And so it was very kind of disheartening. I don't know if he was genuine about doing the meeting. I hope he was. We're going to plan for it as if he is, and show him, you know, in the Bible where it says to worship on the Sabbath. But the pastor's job is to be the leader of the church, and if you hurt feelings, oh well, because it's
Tell the
not
truth.
you. It's not you hurting the people's feelings. It's the word of God, and it even says if you offend using the word, then that's okay. I mean, I'm paraphrasing tremendously by saying that, but it's the word that offends and not you personally. You are not personally attacking them by literally opening your Bible and reading what it says on the page. That's not a personal attack. That's literally reading what it says in the book. And that's what I was trying to get across to him. Unfortunately, I don't feel by myself I was very successful, so we're going to have our next meeting on a Sabbath to go talk to him together.
Yeah.
Probably not this Sabbath, but in a few Saturdays from now. So if you would pray for us about that, and I plan
That'd be
to.
helpful.
I plan to talk to a few other pastors as well in the area that I have had lengthy conversations with before, and didn't at that point in my walk, I wasn't sure how to answer some of the questions that they were throwing at me because they've been pastors for a long time and were very fluent in the Bible. But one of them, I had a random lady I met at a gas station. We were doing like one of those marketplace trade-off things where you meet and you give them money and they give you the stuff that you find on the marketplace, and
Sounds
she
like
was
a
talking
drug
to
deal.
me, kind of. She was talking to me about one of the pastors, but she didn't mention his name. And she said that her husband had gone into the military, and when he came back, he wanted to be a Buddhist. And so she drug him up to the church to talk to the pastor and was like, "Pastor, please help me." And he literally turned this guy away and said, "I don't know how to answer your questions. You'll have to find a specialist in apologetics to talk to."
And I apologize.
And that's the head pastor though. And I was able to guess his name and what church it was from, etc. And she was like, "How did you know?" And I was like, "Because I've talked to this guy several times for long periods of time. Like, I knew that's who she was talking about." And I said, "Well, I'm very sorry, and I'll be praying for your husband. You know, if there's anything, you have my email thingy now. So if there's anything that we can do other than that, please let us know. We would be happy to talk to him and
Sure.
set him straight on some things." But of course, she never messaged because she, at that point, it had been almost a year, and she had just kind of decided to let him
be a
do
Buddhist.
what he's doing because she didn't know how at that point. She felt it was already kind of too far gone to do much of anything else, unfortunately. And I don't feel that was the case, but I'm not in her shoes, so all we can do is pray for that guy. But I felt it very upsetting that there was a head pastor, the lead, not an associate pastor, not a youth minister, not a Sunday school teacher, but the head pastor told her that he didn't know how to answer her questions and that she would have to go to a specialist in apologetics. Your job as a head pastor is to have answers. It says
hold on. You got the Bible right there.
right?
What does it say that a pastor's supposed to do? Let's read it.
Okay.
Because
forget
it
what
breaks
book that's
down.
in. Is it in Ephesians? I don't remember what book that's in. It does break it down, but it might take me a minute to find it. Put me on the spot, Brad. Is it? It's not Corinthians, is it? I don't think so. I think it's Ephesians. Try to be saved. Walk in love. You guys probably will already find this before I find it in your Bibles. Or probably you're screaming at the thing saying, "Well, how do you not know this?"
Luke 25!
Maybe it's Corinthians. Way to put me on the spot there, Brad.
I thought you just knew. I'm sorry.
I know what it says, but I don't know what I don't remember what book it's in. I'm going to pause this while we find it. 1 second. Okay.
Hey.
So it wasn't Ephesians, it was Timothy. So I mean, I was
Timmy.
kind of close, but not really. So it is the qualifications for bishops. This is a true saying: if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. I can agree with that. I can't disagree. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife.
Blameless.
Means blameless according to what? How are you blameless? How do you get to be blameless? You have repented, you've received Christ, and you
Do no wrong.
But how do you know if you're doing wrong?
By the law.
How do you know that?
By the commandments.
How do you know that?
Because they're written on your heart.
Yes, but they're also written on paper for right now. For now. But yeah, that's why you feel bad every time you do something. But it also says that sin is this, transgression of the law. That it literally says that. And okay, anyway, let's keep going. So he has to follow the law, be the husband of one wife, be vigilant, sober, so he can't do drugs of any kind. He can't drink all the time. He has to be sober. He has to be of good behavior, given to hospitality, so he has to want to give hospitality, so he wants to clothe children that are naked, and he wants to feed the people that are hungry, and he has to have that want in his heart, not just do it because he's supposed to, but want to do it because he's a good person. He has to already have that. He has to be apt to teach. It means you have to have the want to teach and possibly learn how to teach if you've never taught before.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so you have to want to teach. Well, what are you supposed to be teaching?
You tell us.
Aren't you supposed to teach them the commandments since you're blameless according to the commandments? Shouldn't you teach them that too? I'm just saying, that's what it says. This is Timothy, the first Timothy, chapter 3, by the way, if you want to follow along. I'm now in verse 3. Not given to wine, not a striker, not guilty of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous. So he can't want what other people have. He can't fight. He can't do money under the table. None of that. One that ruleth well his own house, having children in subjection with all gravity. It means that his children should be afraid to do wrong as well. So not only should he be afraid of doing wrong, should he not do wrong. Of course, we're all human. At some point, we're going to do something wrong, but that's not what it's saying. It doesn't say he has to be sinless like Jesus. It's just saying you have to follow the law as well as you can.
Take care of your household.
And you have to rule your household. You can't just have and this is the thing that most people nowadays don't like to hear, especially women. I'm a woman, so I can say this, but they don't want to hear that they're supposed to be subject to their husbands. I don't even want to hear that.
Oh, she hears it.
But I hear it, and I normally obey it. It might say, I might like, shut up. I might throw kind of a little fit about it, or say, oh,
I don't
that's
want to do that,
or why do we do whatever. But I always end up having to follow. So.
Know your role, woman.
For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Okay, so novice means new. He can't be new. He can't just get saved and then be like, okay, I'm going to go be a pastor now. Well, no, you have to go through instruction. You have to thoroughly understand what it's saying. You can't just one day wake up and say, I'm going to be a pastor. It takes a certain amount of education and learning in order to teach other people. So it can't be a novice. And moreover, he must have a good rapport of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. So he has to have a good rapport with people that are not part of his congregation, that he's not already responsible for taking care of.
Like us. Yeah.
Or, well, I was thinking more like the needy people, but sure, like us as well. We don't have a church home. We don't have a fellowship gathering outside of a few close friends and family that come over from now and again, because we just can't find anywhere that actually reads the Bible. Like, that we'll just open it and be like, okay, this is what we're talking about, and we're going to go through this entire thing. And likewise, we're going to go ahead and read the deacons as well. Likewise, must the deacons be grave and not double-tongued. So they have to be very serious in their roles as the deacons, and they cannot talk people behind their backs or do lucrative deals with people under the table, for even if it's for the church. Not supposed to do that. They can't boast about how they follow God and then they smoke marijuana or crack or
Mary
whatever.
Jane.
And I'm not saying marijuana cannot be medicinal. I'm saying as a fun to do thing. Okay, so let's not get that twisted either. Not given to much wine, so can't be a drinker. Not greedy or of filthy lucre. If I could read tonight, I'm so sorry. Holding the mystery of the faith in pure conscience. And let these also first be proved. So even a deacon has to be proved. They can't just go to a church and people are like, hey, what about him? Can little Timmy be a deacon? Because he's gone here for 10 years. Okay, but how much do you know about little Timmy? Have you seen his house? Do you watch him pray? Has he been to Bible studies? Or are you just putting him there because he's a member of the church and he's been there a long time, so you feel like you should? Anyway. Then let them use the office of a deacon, being found blameless. Even so must their wives be grave, not slanderers, sober, and faithful of all things. I like how it says that the women should not be slanderers, because what is the number one thing that women like to do? We love
slander.
to gossip. Women, I love to gossip, and I should not. And I try really hard not to. I think I do a pretty good job at it most days. But sometimes something comes out of my mouth, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Because we have big mouths. We want to run them all the time. And I don't care who you are, even if you're the quietest person, you're prone to gossip. I don't care who you are. If you're a woman, you're prone to gossip. It's what we do. That's why it's telling us not to, because that's what we do.
Did you see what Susie was wearing?
Oh my gosh. Let the deacons be the husbands of one wife, ruling their children and their own house as well. So they also have to rule their houses.
So time out. Let's stop there.
Okay.
So if Mr. Pastor Man were to pass away, these deacons are set up to be next in line.
Mm-hmm.
Not
or associate pastors.
That's right. Or not the fella down the street that brings the biggest crowds. No. It's those people are set up to move into that position.
Deacons
if
are
needed.
Literally mini pastors.
They should be. That's what they're supposed to be.
They're set up literally. Okay, so back in Moses' day, Moses was dealing with all the people's problems, and he was getting really kind of overwhelmed with it. And so his father-in-law suggested, and I believe he prayed about it, and he set up judges.
Yeah.
Right? And then the judges evolved.
Y'all go to this guy. Yeah, I remember that.
And the judges evolved into elders.
Right.
So the elders elders don't necessarily mean they have to be old people. They just have to be people that are well learned in the scripture, which normally are older people, because younger people have children and are really busy, and it's hard. Not saying it's impossible, because we surely have tried to do it. But it's very hard to balance your family as well as just literally having your nose in the book all the time. It's very hard to do that. And again, not impossible. Do it when the kids are asleep. Do it when they're over at grandma's house. If you have a day that you're not working and they're in daycare or whatever, that's your times. Or you want to get up at 5 a.m. and your kids don't get up at 6 a.m. You want to enjoy that morning coffee and just read your Bible over a morning coffee. That's how you're going to get your word in. Or on your lunch break at work.
Give them a ball, toss it outside, tell them to chase it, and lock the door. Because that's what we do.
That's what you do.
It's great.
But we're in the country. We can do that. So
go get that ball.
Anyway, so they're literally the elders of the church is what he's talking about. So he's talking about and when he says the qualifications of a bishop, he means a pastor. That word is bishop is equated to pastor here. It's not like the bishop of the Catholic Church.
Like that guy.
So,
no, we won't go there. That was an awful story I just read the other day.
Okay. For they have used the office of a deacon, well purchased to themselves a good degree and great boldness in the faith which is in Christ Jesus. These things I write unto thee, hoping to come to thee shortly. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and the ground of the truth. And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of the angels, preached unto the Gentiles, beloved in the world, and received up into glory. So he's saying that God was Jesus, Jesus was God. So that is the oneness of God. And that goes back to the Trinity.
We'll play that game another day.
Yep.
We're getting closer and closer to wrapping this up, and we know
are.
This is stretching out.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is...
If you're a pastor, speak boldly and speak the truth. If you offend someone, that sucks, and you can be just as sorry as you can be that you've offended them, but it's not you that's offended them. It's the Word of God. And that's what I tried to tell the pastor.
He didn't want to play.
And I also told him that I felt that we should be following the commandments, and he said, well, which ones? And I said...
all of them.
And he said, the 2 that Jesus gave, and I was like, no, Jesus didn't give 2. He said the 2 greatest of the commandments, and that's when he went into the... I came not to abolish the law. Think not that I came. And he said that if I was looking, he literally put his hand up and he said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, But if you are looking for someone who's going to implement these holidays, because I had talked to him also about the 3 holidays and how they play into the millennial kingdom, the Passover, Sukkot, and the trumpets, and how in Isaiah it says that they'll play over into the millennial kingdom after Armageddon, before the new heaven, new earth. And he said, well, if you're looking for someone to do that, then this is not going to be the church for you. So he's convinced that while we shouldn't be doing the pagan holidays, he's not going to tell people not to do them.
Nor is he going to do the ones that God says we should.
Nor is he going to do the other ones. So he's kind of like in the middle, which sucks. So the pastor's job is to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. He doesn't have to condemn you to hell by telling you the truth. Or anyone. It's not our job to condemn people to hell.
Sometimes the truth definitely will make you feel like you're going to hell, though.
It will. I've thought that on more than one occasion when I've been convicted about something. I'm like, ooh. But yeah, so that's our video on what pastors should or should not be doing, using an example of a pastor I spoke to over the last 2 years, but specifically today. Just pastors, if you're watching this, we're not condemning you. We're not condemning you to hell. But it's our job. Iron sharpens iron. And your job is to give us the word.
The real word, not man's word.
Our job is to be sure that our pastors are following the word, to rightly discern if you are indeed teaching of God, to be sure that you're not a false teacher or complacent or lukewarm. We don't want to follow the lukewarm train. Yes, it's political not to cause breaks in your church. That is very political. And is it the best answer? Probably in a human way, because we don't like confrontation. It's probably the best human answer, because you don't want to confront anyone and you don't want to hurt their feelings. But a pastor's job is not to not hurt your feelings. A pastor's job is to keep you from going to hell.
Because that's actually love.
And he can't do that. Only you can accept that gift, but he can sure point you in the right direction. And that's his job, is to tell you what the word says. So that way you can make up your mind on whether you're going to follow it or not. But his job is to tell you what it says. Whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, whether he likes it or not. It's their job.
Don't clean it up to where people are like, oh, God's such a wonderful person.
And he is. Glorious and wonderful and amazing. But at the same time,
also jealous and angry
and vengeful. He will have his vengeance.
There's
it will be on Judgment
nothing
Day.
to fear but God.
And that's what Brad's going to talk to him when we go talk.
That's probably what I'm going to start with. You scared of people? You should be scared of God.
Start with that. I hope you.
That's probably how I start. No, I probably won't.
No, you won't, because then he'll just tell you to get out of his office. Probably.
I'll probably put the mask on and shake his elbow. Like that.
No, you won't. I didn't wear a mask.
Yeah, I probably won't wear a mask. Was he wearing a mask?
No.
Well, I'll be a fat guy.
in a blue robe.
You bought this for me.
I did.
Y'all have a good night.
Bye.